Amundsen, and I train and coach nonprofit leaders to be fantastic fundraisers. I talk a lot about how to build a fundraising board. But the term fundraising board is a term that trips a lot of people up. So let's debunk some myths about what a fundraising board looks like and does. Today we're taking on 4 myths of a fundraising board. Now when I say the words fundraising board, it creates a visual in your mind. Maybe it's a board full of people who look alike. Maybe they're older. Maybe they're all white. Maybe they live in big houses and have vacation homes on the vineyard. Maybe they're successful, hard-nosed business types. Maybe you see pearls. But when I use the term fundraising board, that's not what I envision at all, and I don't want you to see that either. Because myth number 1, a fundraising board is not a board that goes out and magically brings new major donors from their networks to your organization without any effort on your part. That's not a thing. Everyone wants this to be what their board does, but no board just goes out and magically fundraises. There's no version of your nonprofit board where you don't have to train and support your board members to do fundraising work. And even if your board members have capacity and networks with people with capacity, that doesn't mean that your board member will feel comfortable or have the skill to bring people from their networks to your organization. And in fact, because so many nonprofits try to build boards that look like this, you get a phenomenon of what I call quid pro quo giving, where once a board member with capacity asks someone in their network with capacity for a gift, your board member can expect to have to reciprocate that gift to their friend's pet charity as a quid pro quo. And those donors certainly serve a purpose in raising immediate funds for your organization. But they aren't people who become long-term, loyal donors to your organization. They only give as long as your board member asks and reciprocates. So you may find some board members with capacity resisting reaching out into their networks because they know they'll get asked in return. Myth number 2. A fundraising board is also not a board made up of people with a lot of capacity who know people with a lot of capacity who are suddenly going to give large gifts to your organization. Don't confuse someone with capacity with a future donor to your organization, because they are not the same thing. I know many people with capacity who don't give philanthropically at all. And plenty of people with capacity have already determined and committed their philanthropic priorities, and you're not one of them. And don't confuse your definition of capacity with somebody else's personal sense of what their capacity to be philanthropic is. Plenty of people who on paper look like they should have plenty of discretionary income for philanthropy don't feel they do. And plenty of people who don't flash their money around, who you would never think have a lot of discretionary money for philanthropy, feel they have lots of capacity to be philanthropic. Which brings us to myth number 3. I often hear from nonprofit leaders that they are intentionally not building a fundraising board because they want to have a diverse board. So let's debunk that myth, because a fundraising board is not all white. Philanthropy doesn't just happen in white communities. We've just debunked the myth that someone who has fancy things will be your next donor. Hopefully, that gives you some space to think more expansively about who has capacity and who is philanthropic. Communities of color are just as philanthropic as white communities. In fact, while black communities may have lower net worth than white communities, they give a larger share of their wealth to charity than any other racial group in America. Not to mention that fundraising is a core responsibility of your board. It goes hand in glove with their fiduciary responsibility to your organization. So building a board that intentionally does not fulfill its responsibility is irresponsible. Which leads us to myth number 4. A fundraising board is not made up of people who know how to go out and ask people for money. Most fundraising tasks a board should be doing have nothing to do with soliciting a gift. And in fact, so much of the value your board members bring is around their ability to add capacity to your organization's fundraising program. But they alone are not your fundraising program, and the ways they add capacity often have nothing to do with asking for money. So the next time you hear me talk about building a fundraising board, I want you to erase the image that phrase conjures in your mind, and I want you to think more holistically and frankly, realistically about what value your board can actually add to your fundraising program, because it's a lot. There is real work you need your fundraising board to do, even if they never solicit a gift. That's why I built the Fearless Board Fundraising Program, It's a way to build your board, whoever makes up your board, into a fundraising board. And spoiler, that answer isn't running out and finding older white people with pearls to sit on your board. Are you wondering if the Fearless Board fundraising program is right for your organization? Take the survey, which you can find on my website, and find out. And if you are ready to build a program that gets your board fundraising, reach out and let's have a conversation.